Welcome to XO, where science meets heart at the kitchen table. I'm your host, Davey. In each episode, I narrate B-side tracks curated around a single theme: the why behind the ingredients, the swaps that make it better, and the stories that have been simmering for generations. No interviews, no guests, just me and you. This is EP 15, the golden hour. Before we get into the kitchen, the powders, the pastes, the rituals, the roots, I need to tell you what this episode is really about. It's not about ingredients. It's about what happens when you stop treating your pantry like a convenience store and start treating it like a pharmacy. Because once you discover that the ingredients you thought were fixed, liquids, perishables, things that spoil, have been quietly available in concentrated, shelf-stable form, your whole relationship with the pantry shifts. Once you understand that water isn't something you drink when you're thirsty, it's something your body runs on, and most of us are running it dry. Once you learn that a grandmother in India had already solved the bioavailability problem with a cup of warm spiced milk, centuries before anyone called it a supplement. And once you meet the flour that 800 million people have been eating for generations, before anyone made it a trend. 4 tracks, 1 golden thread. Let's go. Track 1, powder buffs. I didn't go looking for it. I was just reorganizing the spice shelf, one of those Sunday afternoon projects that turns into 2 hours, when I found it, a small jar, amber-colored label, tucked behind the smoked paprika, Worcestershire sauce, in powder form. I've loved Worcestershire since I was a teenager. It was my go-to marinade for steaks, the not-so-secret ingredient in my chili. For years, I thought of it as that magical brown bottle that made everything taste better. I didn't question it. It just worked. Then I found out it was made with anchovies, the very fish I've been known to side-eye in Caesar dressing. And yet, I still love it. I kept loving it. A friend of mine used to eat imported anchovies straight from the tin like they were a delicacy. And honestly, maybe he was onto something. Anchovies carry a near-perfect omega ratio, balanced in a way most fish aren't. The flavor is just the beginning, but the powder version stopped me completely. All that savory, tangy complexity, now dry, shelf-stable, blendable into a rub or a seasoning, without adding a drop of liquid. I stood there holding that jar for longer than I'd like to admit. Once I found it, I started noticing everything else: coconut milk, sour cream, balsamic vinegar, lemon juice, soy sauce, peanut butter. Things I'd only ever known as wet, perishable, refrigerator-dependent ingredients sitting on shelves in powdered form, waiting for me to catch up. The technology is called spray drying, and it's been quietly transforming pantries for decades. The process removes the water, sometimes through heat, sometimes through freeze-drying, while leaving the flavor compounds intact. What you're left with is something more concentrated than the original. Tomato powder hits harder than tomato paste. Mushroom powder, porcini or shiitake, delivers umami that would take you an hour to build on the stovetop. Beet powder adds an earthy sweetness and a color so deep it looks like something you earned. The practical upside is obvious. No refrigeration, no spoilage, no opening a can of coconut milk, and using 2 tablespoons and forgetting the rest. But the culinary upside is what changed how I cook. Powders let you add flavor without adding liquid. No extra moisture in a dough that can't take it. No thinning a sauce that's already where you want it. You're adding intensity without consequence. There's a whole fermented corner of this world too. Miso powder, fermented black garlic powder, even sauerkraut powder. Which sounds strange until you stir it into a broth and realize you've just added 20 minutes of complexity in 10 seconds. These aren't just convenient. They're carrying the tang and the gut-friendly depth of fermentation in concentrated form. And then there's buttermilk powder, which deserves its own moment. A tablespoon into pancake batter or cookie dough, and you get the tang and the tenderness that buttermilk produces without ever opening a carton. Malted milk powder does something similar in baked goods. Depth, a subtle sweetness. a softness that makes things taste like they were made somewhere you'd want to eat. Check your pantry. You probably already have at least one of these, a jar you bought for one recipe and forgot about. That jar is more useful than you think. Concentration is a form of care. It's what happens when you take something essential and strip away everything that made it temporary. But not everything that keeps us running comes from what we eat. Some of it comes from something we forget to drink. Track 2. H2O, Mom. I don't remember my mom ever chugging water. She nudged herself toward it, with a lemon wedge, a quiet push, a few sips, and a shrug. Squeezing lemons into her glass was her way of making hydration feel like something. I didn't think much of it back then, but now I catch myself going half a day without a drink and realizing I've become a little too good at going without. I used to think it was forgetfulness, but now I wonder, was it modeled? Maybe some of us inherit a low thirst the way others inherit dimples or blue eyes. We don't reach for water naturally. We have to remind ourselves. Relearn what our bodies already know. Turns out the more you delay hydration, the more your body adapts to not asking for it. And that's the part nobody tells you. Chronic underhydration doesn't always announce itself. It shows up as the mid-afternoon brain fog you've been blaming on too much work. The strange craving that won't quit, which is often thirst wearing the wrong costume. The tired and cranky and dragging by dinner that you've been writing off as a long day. Water cushions your joints. It regulates your temperature. It supports digestion, clears waste, sharpens your thinking. It does things you don't notice until they start to go wrong. The math is simpler than the gallon jug challenges suggest. Half your body weight in ounces is a reasonable place to start. If you weigh 160 pounds, that's 80 ounces, around 10 cups. More if you're sweating or drinking caffeine or living somewhere dry. The best time to start is when your feet hit the floor, or at least within the first 30 minutes of waking. For some of us, the thirst signal runs quiet. That's the body's adaptation to being underfueled. The signal blunts. The whisper gets quieter. Until one day it shouts. My mom didn't talk about any of this. She didn't count ounces or set reminders. She had a ritual, lemon wedges, a few sips, a tiny nudge toward what her body needed. She didn't crave water, but she found her way to it anyway. I think of water now, not as a habit to build, but as a kindness. The smallest, clearest way to say, I'm taking care of this body today. Infuse it with something that makes it feel like a treat. Citrus, cucumber, ginger, mint. Add a pinch of mineral-rich salt to help your body absorb it. Pair it with something you already do so it sticks. Make it beautiful enough that you actually reach for it. The lemon wedge is still the move. My mom knew. A ritual is just a habit with intention behind it. And sometimes the most powerful rituals are the ones that have been running for thousands of years. The ones that got there before the science had a name for what they were doing. Track 3. Golden milk. Long before anyone used the word biohacking, long before turmeric lattes showed up in glass jars at specialty cafes for $9, a version of this drink was being made in kitchens across India every night. Haldi doodh, turmeric milk, a grandmother's remedy for inflammation, sore throats, restless sleep, and the general wear of being alive. Not a trend, not a product. Just warm milk, turmeric, and a few spices that happened to work. I came to it late, the way most people did, through a cafe menu. But the more I learned about what's actually happening in the cup, the more I realized this isn't a wellness moment. It's a chemistry lesson that's been hiding in plain sight for a few thousand years. Turmeric gets all the attention. The golden color, the curcumin, the compound responsible for most of the anti-inflammatory benefits, the supplement aisle, the headlines, but turmeric on its own is almost useless. Curcumin has terrible bioavailability. Your body can barely absorb it. You can stir a teaspoon of turmeric into water, drink it, and most of it will pass straight through without doing much of anything. It's like swallowing a vitamin that's still in the wrapper. This is where golden milk is smarter than a supplement. The recipe solves the absorption problem with 2 ingredients that have been paired with turmeric for centuries. Not because someone read a study, but because generations of cooks noticed it worked better this way. Fat. Curcumin is fat-soluble. Without a carrier, coconut oil, ghee, full-fat milk, coconut milk, The compound can't get into your system. The fat is the delivery mechanism. It's not optional. It's the whole reason the drink works. Black pepper. This one amazed me. Black pepper contains piperine, and piperine increases the absorption of curcumin by roughly 2,000%. That's not a typo. A single crack of black pepper turns a decorative spice into a functional anti-inflammatory. Without the fat and the pepper, turmeric is food coloring. Pretty, but inert. With them, it's a different thing entirely. The ancient recipe already knew this. The fat was always there. The pepper was always there. The science just caught up. The base is warm milk, whatever kind you use, with turmeric, a fat, and black pepper. Cinnamon adds warmth and helps with blood sugar regulation. Ginger doubles down on the anti-inflammatory effect and adds a sharp edge that keeps the drink from feeling heavy. A small amount of sweetener, honey, a touch of maple, rounds it out. The sweetness should be in the background, not running the show. The single best thing I did was make a paste in bulk. Turmeric, ginger, black pepper, coconut oil, cooked down gently into a thick golden paste and stored in a jar in the fridge. It keeps for a couple of weeks. When you want golden milk, you scoop a spoonful of paste into warm milk and whisk. 2 minutes, done. Without the paste, I made golden milk once a week when I felt motivated. With the paste, I make it almost every night. The barrier went from getting out 6 ingredients and a grater to opening a jar. That's the difference between a ritual and a chore. I've started dropping the paste into oatmeal, stirring it into chia pudding, using it as a base for savory sauces. Once you have it, you find uses for it everywhere. I drink it warm, usually in the evening, not because I read that it's good for me, though it is, but because it genuinely calms something down. The warmth, the fat, the spices. There's a weight to it that signals the end of the day. My body responds to it the way it responds to dimming the lights. The grandmothers knew. They always know. The oldest ingredients don't ask for your trust. They've already earned it. Meal by meal, generation by generation, across every kitchen that figured out what worked before anyone had the language to explain why. And sometimes, the most powerful thing an ingredient can do is get out of the way and let you bake. Track 4, cassava flour. It came to me through pancakes, not through a food magazine or a wellness article or a recommendation from someone who does CrossFit. Through a stack of pancakes that were, and I don't use this word lightly, perfect, light, fluffy, golden edge, tender center. The kind that make you suspicious because they were too good to be what someone said they were. What someone said they were was cassava flour, one ingredient, from a root that's been feeding people for centuries, across South America, across Africa, across Southeast Asia, long before it appeared on any specialty grocery shelf. The cassava plant produces a starchy root, also called yucca. To make the flour, you peel the whole root, dry it, and grind it. That's it. The whole root, not just the starchy extract, which is what separates cassava flour from tapioca, a common point of confusion. Tapioca is the starch alone, processed out, refined down. It behaves like a thickener. Cassava flour behaves like a flour because it is one, with more fiber, more body, more structural integrity. The reason it can stand in for all-purpose wheat flour in most recipes, sometimes almost cup for cup, comes down to its starch structure. It has a fine, neutral quality that doesn't fight with other ingredients the way almond flour can. Almond flour is wonderful, but it carries weight and nuttiness that show up in everything. Coconut flour absorbs moisture so aggressively, it can turn a batter into cement if you're not careful. Cassava sits differently. It's cooperative. It takes the shape of whatever you're making. It also carries resistant starch, a type of fiber that feeds the good bacteria in your gut rather than being rapidly converted to sugar. That's not nothing. It means cassava flour is doing something useful beyond just holding your baked goods together. The practical adjustment that matters most. Cassava absorbs slightly more liquid than wheat. Not dramatically, but enough that if a batter looks tight, you add a tablespoon or 2 of water and carry on. And pull things from the oven early, because cassava continues to firm as it cools. The margin between done and overdone is a few minutes, and it's worth watching. Pancakes were where I started, then tortillas, which might be cassava's best application. Soft and pliable in a way that makes grain-free feel like you're not giving anything up. Then pizza crust. Then cookies that came out with a chew I wasn't expecting and couldn't explain except that the flour was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. The label should say one thing: cassava flour. Nothing else added, nothing blended in. The texture should feel almost silky between your fingers, fine and soft. If it feels gritty, that's a sign the quality isn't there. 800 million people around the world eat cassava as a staple. The flour version just makes it available to anyone standing in a kitchen, wondering if there's a better way to make the pancakes. There is. Start there. That's EP 15, The Golden Hour, 4 tracks, 1 pantry, restocked with intention. The powders that concentrate flavor without adding a drop of liquid. Everything from Worcestershire to buttermilk, sitting quietly on your shelf waiting for you to find them. The water you've been meaning to drink. The lemon-wedge ritual your mom already knew. The thirst signal you've been muting without realizing it. The ancient cup of golden milk that solved its own bioavailability problem centuries before anyone called it a supplement. Fat, pepper, heat, and a paste that turns a chore into a 2-minute ritual. And the flour that 800 million people have been eating for generations, that came to the rest of us through a stack of pancakes that didn't ask for any explanation. The golden hour isn't a time of day. It's what happens when you stop ignoring what your pantry and your body has been trying to tell you. Here's to health, happiness, and a remix that's uniquely yours. Thank you for spending time with me. Food feeds the body. Music feeds the soul. Remixology is where they collide. Download the Remixology app. New music and recipes drop every Friday.